Hey Athena, so Eric and I are making screencast feedback for people for essay number 2, and we just got done reading your essay a little bit earlier today, and I have the pleasure of getting to make you a screencast. So really, because you did such an outstanding job on this essay, I get to just go through and talk about all the things that worked really well. And so we're going to start by looking at your Kant letter here. I think that Eric and I agreed you have a really clear claim and that your introduction just really sets the stage for what's going to come in the rest of the essay. You take on the first formulation of the categorical imperative, which is definitely, I think, the trickier of the two formulations. And you are so thorough and so careful in your explanation and just really describing each step of that logical process for Julie, that even though Julie is a non-philosopher, Eric and I agree that she's going to be able to follow what you're saying and she's going to be able to see why her actions don't hold up and why it is really that she cannot give herself the special privilege of acting in a way that we expect everybody else to act in order to maintain the integrity of things like honesty and marriage and those kinds of concepts. And so you just did really great job of unpacking all that and really applying it very specifically to Julie's situation. You transition really nicely here to the second formulation and offer just a great deal of support for that as well. I think one of the things that Eric and I were most impressed with is that you really hammered home for Julie this idea of equality, and that because we're all rational, free-thinking beings, we all deserve to be able to employ our rationality as a way of making decisions. And what Julie is doing is taking away her husband's ability to employ his own rationality, his own will, and all of that. And so again, you just did such a nice job of really letting that idea come through for Julie. So this was really well put. You are allowing a relationship to be built on a foundation of dishonesty. Your husband is no longer making a fully informed decision to remain in your marriage. I think that's well put. And so I said to Eric when we got to the end of this, like, wow, if I was Julie, I would feel super convinced by this argument that, yes, what I'm doing is very immoral and I ought to approach it differently. Your own letter was very impressive as well. We thought you had a super clear stance and thesis claim at the beginning of it. And then you organized different reasons throughout that you supported really well with both your logical, rational thinking and then, not a whole lot of like outside evidence or anything like that, but you don't need that. You had enough logic in there to really support the points that you were making. This was an interesting argument here that, this isn't really something you can get away from, Julie. It may feel okay in the moment, but eventually the guilt is going to build up or the truth is going to come out. And so this reprieve that you're feeling, this kind of glowing happiness of everything's fine, it's a temporary thing, Julie. And so let's really think about the long term and how this is going to come out. And I liked your little parenthetical aside here, and there is always an end, reminding Julie that you can't remain in this blissful, ignorant state forever. Things are going to have to change at some point. And so I really like this point. People end up getting hurt far more than if you had opened up in a mature way sooner. That's a super logical argument, hard to argue against, and really well stated. This paragraph as well, this idea about the importance of openness in marriage and, this need to not keep secrets and take matters into your own hand, but really to work with the person that you love and that you have made these vows with on a solution together. And so you handled that really well. Eric and I loved this line. You owe it to yourself to be able to live your happiness in the open, not secretly or with any shame. Even though in the Kant letter you didn't talk about Julie using herself as a means to an end, this would be an example of how that's coming through in your own letter. And so this idea of you need to honor yourself too, Julie, as a whole person and not fragment your own existence into these little boxes. You want to be a whole person and be able to live your life honestly and out in the open. So you just captured that beautifully with that sentence. And so that was really neat to see. Also honoring her husband, giving him the right to make his own decisions, and so on and so forth. And so you can just kind of, this argument here with S and the wife flipping her perspective to say to Julie that, you may not see yourself as the bad guy. Maybe you see yourself as a victim of a struggling marriage, right? But let's look at this from a different perspective. What about from S's wife's perspective? You might not like how that looks or feels, Julie. And so all these really valid logical arguments that you bring up just do a nice job of even impressing upon Julie further that her actions are wrong. And so all in all, this was just such a fun couple of letters to read. We know you took this assignment super seriously, worked really hard to tease out such a sophisticated understanding of Kant, being able to apply it to this situation. And so we just thoroughly enjoyed reading all of your work, and we'd love to keep a copy of this if you're okay with that. If you are okay with that, just send us a quick email and let us know. We like to keep some of our strongest essays on hand to share with students as samples in future classes if we need them. So thanks again, Athena, and I look forward to reading more of your writing for Essay 3.